Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Trilbee, and this weekend the 88th Academy Awards will take place at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles. Thousands of experienced filmmakers who make up the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences will gather together and award the best movies that this past year had to offer, the best of the medium, the ones that are most deserving of recognition. And today, I'm going to tell them how wrong they all are.
I'm joking. Look, to be perfectly frank, I actually think that the lineup for Best Picture is one of the best lineups we have had in a very, very long time. For the past few years, there's always been one or two bad movies, or even a few mediocre ones like American Sniper, American Hustle, The Blind Side, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, etc. But out of the 8 movies nominated for Best Picture, none of them are bad. Yes, there are some weaker ones, which I'll get to soon, but we have the best lineup since 2008.
Over the past couple of years, I've done one big video reviewing and talking about all of the Best Picture nominees, but because of the recent format changes and everything I've been doing to this channel over the past few months, that would be redundant. I've already reviewed these movies in video form anyway, and if not video form, written form, so I'll post all of those in the description below if you are curious. So today what I'll do is that I'll just talk broadly about the ceremony, all of the recent trends and changes and topics and controversies that have taken place over the past few months once the nominees were announced.
The 8 nominees are The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Room, and Spotlight. At time of writing, this is currently a 3-horse race between The Big Short, thanks to its win at the Producers Guild Awards, The Revenant because of other award ceremonies, and Spotlight because of its win at the Screen Actors Guild. As per usual, the frontrunners that people were talking about a year ago.
Yes, because some news outlets like to try and predict the Oscars a whole year in advance for reasons,
have fallen to the wayside, like Joy, Steve Jobs, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, The Danish Girl, and Carol, meaning that we have films being nominated that very few people saw coming, like Brooklyn, Room, Spotlight, and The Big Short.
It's almost as if predicting the Oscars a year in advance has never, ever worked out, and I sure hope we've actually learnt our lesson this year. Just to let you know where I stand, I'm going to rank the Best Picture nominees from best to worst, starting with
The Martian, Brooklyn, Mad Max Fury Road, Room, The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Spotlight, and The Revenant. Yes, the current frontrunner and favourite to win is my least favourite of the pack. Now, I don't hate The Revenant, I don't even dislike it, it's just average, it's meh, it's mediocre. Yes, we've had average movies get nominated before, but The Revenant's nominations feel especially questionable, because the movie has been campaigning itself to win Oscars as opposed to actually earning them. I know that that's the case every year, Oscar campaigns, Weinstein, etc., but with The Revenant, it's especially egregious, because the movie itself, it's a basic revenge story that's about an hour too long, but if you read interviews with the director and the production team, then they'll talk about how hard it was to make, how difficult it was to film in these harsh environments, and how DiCaprio really did these stunts and suffered for his art.
So basically you want an award just because you put a lot of effort into the film and because it was really, really difficult to make? Well, in that case, the last shit I took was really, really difficult after my last visit to Taco Bell. Where's my award statue?
We have a natural light gimmick that does nothing overall for the movie because it's clearly been colour corrected to death in the editing room, a story that is aggressively lacking in dimension or substance for its runtime, cinematography that feels immensely counterintuitive to the type of movie and tone it's trying to be, and we have Leonardo DiCaprio putting himself through an art house version of Jackass but with no actual character to portray. We have this self-perpetuating Oscar hype machine that allows the filmmakers to talk about how much they deserve recognition, but it's in aid of a movie that didn't need any of it. And that last point about DiCaprio feels particularly disconcerting. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Leo. He should have won for The Wolf of Wall Street, but when you watch him in The Revenant, you are very aware that he is an actor playing truth or dare in front of the camera, except there's no truth, it's all dare. His character is flat and boring, his dialogue is practically non-existent, and there's no subtext other than, look how hard he's acting.
Also, one common response to my review of The Revenant regarding its obscene, unwarranted length is that the movie has to be that long because we have to feel the amount of time that Hugh Glass is out in the wilderness suffering. We have to feel that pace, we have to feel that long drawn out nature of his journey. Now, I would accept that point if it wasn't for the fact that the movie keeps on disrupting that pace, disrupting that story, disrupting that feel with 2 subplots, one of which could have been cut from the movie entirely, the one with the Native Americans, and the one regarding Will Poulter's character, which never sees a resolution, so that response doesn't really have merit.
If he wins the Oscar this weekend, I think it will set a very bad precedent for the industry. This actor, who has been fighting to win an Oscar for years, finally won because he ate a bison liver and threw up, even though the character he's playing is a frontiersman and would never have done that, so it's clearly just Leo himself, the actor, eating a liver because some pretentious director told him to.
You don't end something like this by giving them what they have no right to ask.
In the same category as Leo, we have Bryan Cranston delivering some wonderful and moving monologues as Dalton Trumbo, Michael Fassbender being a fascinating, magnetic presence as Steve Jobs, Eddie Redmayne being really miscast for the role and not belonging here, and Matt Damon, who should win the award for going through the entire gamut of emotions, for carrying an entire movie on his shoulders as he spends hours on screen with no social interaction, but he's playing a wonderful character with such dynamic highs and lows, as opposed to Leo, who's not playing a character in The Revenant, he's just suffering, and it's flatly done. If it was up to me, I would have removed DiCaprio and Redmayne from the category and replaced them with Samuel L. Jackson from The Hateful Eight and Jacob Tremblay for Room. Yes, I think the 9-year-old acted circles around DiCaprio this year, not because of actual talent, but because he played an actual character and had depth and actually got me invested in the person the writer created and the director filmed, not because he couldn't find a gluten-free steak for a few weeks while filming. As for Samuel L. Jackson, I'm not just adding him because of diversity, but because he was actually incredibly awesome in that film. But speaking of diversity, there's not much more to be said here because this topic has been run into the ground. I think that while the Oscars aren't racist, they are the result of an industry that is severely lacking in effective roles for non-white actors, and the recent changes being brought in should hopefully rectify this issue. If anything, the changes saying that if you've not made a movie in 10 years, you don't get to vote makes the most sense, because it results in the voting body no longer being mainly comprised of a bunch of out-of-touch people who aren't even contributing to the medium anymore. That was the biggest thing holding the Academy back. But let's blaze through some more categories. The industry is rooting for Stallone for Best Actor, and I'm right there with them. Though what the hell is Christian Bale doing here instead of Steve Carell for The Big Short, who walked away with that entire film? And Tom Hardy? He was so much better in Legend, but I guess portraying two wildly different characters on screen at the same time and making them believable is not as impressive as mumbling in the cold.
Rich, this lot of fucking nonsense to a man. They're fucking nonsense. Get out your fucking way. Go on, get out. Go and fuck off.
God's sake, I don't even hate The Revenant as a movie, I just hate its success. For the women, Jennifer Lawrence's presence here says less about the quality of her performance in Joy, let alone her severe miscasting, and is more of an indicator in how few dramatic female leading roles there are. There's a reason Meryl Streep, Kate Winslet, Kate Blanchett and Jennifer Lawrence get nominated all the time, and while they are phenomenally talented, there just aren't enough female leading roles to give us different nominees year after year. I'm rooting for Brie Larson for Best Actress here. I'm also rooting for Alicia Vikander for Best Supporting Actress, who was nominated for Ex Machina. Oh no, sorry, the Danish Girl. Now she was the best thing in The Danish Girl, but she was better in Ex Machina. But yeah, Kate Winslet has got this in the bag, and Rooney Mara is... Wait, what is she even doing here? She was the lead in Carol.
Ah yes, it's time to talk about another issue with the Academy. Category fraud.
This term, which I stole from Helen O'Hara at the Empire Magazine podcast, is when the actual lead of a movie is put in the supporting category to give them a better shot at winning. It's frustrating, and it means that when you have an ensemble movie like Spotlight or The Hateful Eight, they get left behind because it's difficult to know where you can put these actors. It's a complex problem with a difficult fix, unlike category fraud in the screenplay department. Last year, Foxcatcher was given a nomination for Best Original Screenplay, even though it was based off a true story and at least 3 novels, whereas Whiplash was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay because it was based on its own short film, which was just a scene from the movie. What fucking logic is that? And this year, we have 5 nominees for Best Original Screenplay, and only 2 of them are original, Inside Out and Ex Machina. What about the other nominees? We have a true story based on at least 3 books, another true story based on an expose and more books, and another true story based on more books, and an album that the movie is actually named after. How are these original screenplays? Just because you don't credit a source doesn't mean they're not adapted.
And just for fun, I'm going to list off some nominees from the past 10 years that have been nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Dallas Buyers Club, American Hustle, Zero Dark 30, The Fighter, The Queen, Milk, and The King's Speech. Come on, I actually own that cocking book!
And how frustrating is it when creative people in the industry say they want more original movies to be made, they're clamouring for original movies and they want them to be more successful, but they don't give them any recognition. Maybe if you actually nominated more original movies, they'd make more of them.
It just pisses me off. I'm sorry, that has been a rant long in coming. It's just typical category fraud. But for other categories, we actually do have a strong lineup here. I mean, the Makeup and Hairstyling Award is an absolute joke, but that's just become a depressing regularity over the past few years, because it's clear that they have no idea what to nominate, despite dozens upon dozens of worthy examples. The Hobbit films weren't nominated, for crying out loud. I also feel like movies like The Walk, Everest and Krampus should be here in the sound categories, but we do have some very deserving nominees, and I'm glad that Mad Max is up for many technical awards and is even up for Best Director, which George Miller more than deserves to win.
Alejandro G. Inarritu, if you thought it was difficult to make a movie in the wilderness with natural light with a handful of actors over a couple of months, then try doing this. Try making a movie with hundreds of actors, hundreds of extras, dozens upon dozens of cars, countless pyrotechnics, countless stunts, in the scorching desert for years upon years, because the movie had a very long development cycle. And the fact that George Miller did it in his late 60s, it is no question that George Miller did the best directing job last year. No question. And if you follow that same train of thought, that same logic, that Inarritu deserves the Oscar for Best Director because he worked really hard and the film was difficult to make, by that same train of thought, George Miller deserves the Oscar for Best Director 10 times more than Inarritu does. And if Inarritu does win the Oscar for Best Director at the Academy Awards, I will actually ring the police, because that is actual and legitimate theft.
Also, I know that some people will hate me for saying this, but I do think that they should have a Best Female Director category. I know that people will have legitimate arguments as to why there shouldn't be one, and I completely get them, but I think in this case, the ends justify the means. What else is there? Oh yeah, I'm kind of amazed that Brooklyn and Room have been nominated in major categories, especially because of how low-key they are. Normally movies like The Danish Girl or Carol or Free Held would have been nominated for Best Picture just because of their subject matter and damn the quality of the actual movie, but for the most part the quality of these low-key films speaks for themselves. I mean, they won't win because of Academy politics and bullshit, but Oscar bait isn't working as well as it used to, resulting in a year where actual, genuine, well-rounded artistic achievements like Mad Max Fury Road and The Martian can be nominated in the same year as The Big Short and Bridge of Spies. I know I said earlier that the Academy's changes to their policies will result in a more diverse set of nominations in future, but to tell you the truth, there is so much variety in the Best Picture category this year. We've got a subversive black comedy about the financial recession, a character-driven espionage movie done by a director so talented he probably made this on his off day, an Irish romance movie about growing up and choosing between the security of home or the excitement of the unknown, an off-the-chain, insane 2-hour chase movie with feminist themes, a deeply moving and human rescue movie that spans millions and millions of miles, a B-movie pretending to be an art movie, a story about a son's bond with his mother that literally broke me emotionally around 6 times, and an ensemble drama about a quiet news team's efforts to expose abuse in the church.
I know that a lot has been said about the Academy's lack of diversity, and in regards to the actors nominated and the screenplays nominated, yeah, that's definitely an issue and they do deserve to be called out on it, but in regards to the actual films, the movies themselves being showcased and nominated, and the variety on display, I think the Academy did pretty good this year, but that's just for the nominees, and when it comes to the winners, that will be a different discussion entirely. But what do you think of the list of nominees? Do you have any dark horse favourites? Do you have anyone that you're rooting for, even though you know that they're not going to win? Do you have any predictions? Sound off in the comment section below. And I will be live tweeting during the Oscars on Sunday night. That's always so much fun. I love chatting with you live on Twitter as we watch the Oscars, talk about how wrong they are, how right they are, some celebrity fun boards. It's always a lot of fun. So follow me at Trilbee Reviews on Twitter. That is always so much fun and I love doing it every year at the Oscars. And finally, if The Revenant does win Best Picture, mark my words, it will become the new Crash and it will become the new Shakespeare in Love, where in a few years' time, people will completely forget the movie existed. It will only be noteworthy for DiCaprio winning the Oscar, and even then they'll be like, yeah, he was better elsewhere, and they will immediately regret having it win. In a few years' time, people will just forget the film existed and they'll be thinking, yeah, there were so many better movies that year. We picked the wrong one. Mark my words.
Hey, thank you so much for watching my 2015 Oscar movie breakdown. Hopefully I didn't piss too many people off. Just for fun, the links on your screen right now will take you to my previous Oscar videos where I review all of the Best Picture nominees from 2013 and 2014. But if you liked this video or agreed with anything I had to say, then hit that like button because it really helps me out. Be sure to subscribe for weekly movie related content, and you can support these videos through Patreon for exclusive perks and updates. I will see you all next time.
Trilbee.